In this video, we are going to discuss functions and what they are, how they're used, and some different types of functions. What a function is it is a subroutine which returns a value. And so what that actually means is it is a block of code which is separate from our just main block here, which does something specific. And so if we take a look, let's go ahead and we'll just build a void function called sayHello, and this function will simply cout hello world with an end line. So I've just created this, as you can see. It's a function, and it has void at the front. Now what this means is that this function does not return any value. So if we call this function, we don't need to assign it into a variable, so there's no int a equals sayHello. That doesn't work, and we'll talk about that, kind of how you can do that at a later point. But this just says that this function will not return a value, it just does something. And so there's no, as you can see, main is actually a function. And we have int there, and we've talked about this before, that at the end of it we return 0. On the void function, we don't return anything. So there's no return keyword used. If you'd like to, you can just put return, but that is unnecessary. You can simply put this. So there are 3 parts to every function, I guess to using a function. There is the function definition, which we have right here, which it describes or defines how this function operates or what it does. There's the function call, and we'll go ahead and put that in right here. And this is where you tell your program to actually invoke that function. You say, go down and perform this block of code. So when this line gets hit, then the flow or control of our program will drop down into sayHello. This will execute, and then upon this function completing, the flow or control will return back to this point and move on as though this had been one instruction. And so, like I said, there's 3 parts. We've got 2 of them. We've got the call, we've got our definition, and then the third part is actually called the prototype. And what the prototype is it basically just looks, you can pretend that you just copy paste this, so that's what we'll do, and then you can put a semicolon at the end of it. And now what this does is it's very, very similar to if we remember back to when we were first learning about variables. If I were to simply say my var equals 12 and put a semicolon, it would break because it says error, my var is undefined. Because I need to go and I need to tell it my var is an integer, and I'm going to use it like an integer. And so how these prototypes work is basically the exact same, is that we are telling our program, hey, there is a function called sayHello, and it's going to be used as a type void. And so it's the exact same as declaring a variable, except that we declare it outside of any function and above where we're going to call it. So once again, right here we have the prototype, right here we have the call, and right here we have the definition. So let's go ahead and run this with start without debugging or control F5. And we'll see hello world. So we know that we dropped into our function. And for a little bit of clarity, let's say inside main. And then we'll go ahead and say we're back like dinosaurs eating cereal. Which is a really old movie reference. If anyone can get that, I'll be impressed. So then we'll go ahead and press Control F5 again. Inside main, hello world, and we're back like dinosaurs eating cereal. And so we can see that our function called, everything looks great, we're good to go. So this prototype is not always necessary in only one condition. If we define a function before we call that function, or before we use that function, then we do not need a prototype. I always let me just preface this. I always recommend using a prototype, a call, and a definition, breaking it up like this. I personally think that that is the best way to do it, but some programmers disagree, so here's the other way of doing this. If we just cut and then paste, and so we've brought our definition up and we've replaced our prototype, and so this is actually now a definition, and we'll say and sort of prototype. Then we can go ahead and run this, and we'll see that it still works just fine. Hello world. Now, if we compare this with, if we take this back down here and don't put a prototype, then it won't even build. It gives us a syntax error saying say hello is an identifier which is not found. So there are, once again, two ways to do this. We can either put the definition before the call, or more preferably, in my opinion, is we can put the prototype, then the call, and then the definition. And so that is just your basics with functions and how to use them.